Hey everybody, Whitney here, and this week we are doing part 2 of the Mid-Century Modern Radio Room Box. Thank you so much for your comments last week on part 1. I really appreciate it, and I always love hearing from you. This week, we're going to do accessories. I can't wait to get started, so let's get going.
All right, everybody, so let's get started. So if you remember, this is how the project began, where I had this Zenith radio that I had purchased, and it had come in all these pieces. The tubes were missing out of the back, so I wanted to convert this to the actual room box. And then this is what the room box looked like when we were done last week. We still need to add the accessories, and I wanted to add some sort of knob or something to the front of the radio. What I'm going to do, since we're going to be so highly focused on the accessories this week, is I'm going to pull out the interior of the room box and I'm going to set it out here so we can see it much easier. And because I have two little feet on the back part of the radio, I'm just going to flip the back part upside down so that it sits flush against the flooring, so it'll give us a better idea of how everything's going to look all together, even though the wallpaper is technically upside down. It'll be right set up when I put it back into the radio. One of the things I talked about in the other video also was making some sort of coffee table. And so what I've done is I've just kind of rummaged through my bits and pieces, and I have found a few things that I thought maybe I could use for a coffee table. I want to create a modern looking coffee table that has maybe a couple tiers to it, and I thought it'd be fun. So I found this round plastic piece, and then a really dirty plastic mirror, and then I found a wooden cube, and I think I'm going to use a bead and a toothpick, and I'm going to put all these items together to create a two-tiered modern looking coffee table. First, I'm going to wash down the pieces and clean them off. They are all really pretty dirty. They're just sitting in a drawer for a while. And then I kind of came up with this design in my mind, and what I'm going to do now is just use my hot glue to put this table together. And I'm using my hot glue because I'm not 100% sure I'm going to like it. So that way, if I use the hot glue and I hate it, I can disassemble the piece pretty easily. And then if I do like it, I still will take it apart and use my super glue. I don't always do it this way, but I'm going to do it this way for this because I just feel like it's a little bit easier. Then I'm going to mark my toothpick where I want to cut it to create an additional modern looking leg. And then I'm just taking my walnut stain pen and coloring it very quickly. And then I will go ahead and glue that down, and then that's kind of the look that I got here. Now, there is one more piece that I want to add to the coffee table, but that's going to be a little surprise at the end for you. Perfect. Now I can make a few accessories for that. One of the accessories that I want to make is one of those larger ashtrays in a really fun shape, like kind of like you see here in these photos. And I think it would be really fun to have a big pink ashtray sitting on that coffee table because I think it would really draw your eye. So I was lucky this Christmas. My husband bought me this ginormous box of all of these different polymer clays and all of these really fun colors. So because I want to do it in pink, I'm looking to kind of sort through here and see what kind of different pinks I have. I'm going to go ahead and settle on the bubblegum pink. I think that's appropriate for what we're doing. I would like it to be just a little bit lighter. I considered adding a little bit of white to it, but I think I'm just going to go for it in this brighter bubblegum. So here's about the amount that I'm going to need, just a little bit here. And then the first thing I'm going to do is roll it out and shape it kind of like a little bit of a kidney bean shape. And when I have it in the shape that I want, I'm using this little tool and I'm going to outline the interior of it to create a little groove in a circle pattern. Without me having to do it, it's creating almost like a little island in the middle of my little kidney bean ashtray. And that's exactly what I want. So I'm just kind of smoothing it out on the inside with my little tool, creating that little island in the center, because what that little island is going to become is a little island for my cigarettes to lay in. And now I'm just taking my toothpick and I'm making these little indentations where the cigarette would have been held right in the center. And then basically that is going to be my ashtray. So I'll just go ahead and bake it up. And once it's baked, I'm gonna grab my Tester's gold paint and I'm gonna paint the interior of the ashtray. I'm gonna leave the island center pink. And then because it is so bright of a pink, I am going to paint an edge or a gold trim around the outside also. And then this is going to give me a really adorable and simple mid-century ashtray for the coffee table. Now, Tiny Whitney is a non-smoker, so I'm not going to make any cigarettes. It's going to be more of a decorative piece. But obviously, depending on the type of room that you're doing, I would highly recommend some really fun ashes or cigarettes. All right, so let's move on. I want to make an atomic starburst clock. Now, I have one of these myself. As I mentioned before, I really love mid-century modern, and I have a ton of it in my home that I've been collecting over many years. And so for the clock itself, I'm starting off with these amazing buttons that I found. Now, this is part of my treasure trove of minis that I have collected over the years, and again, they're just in my stash. But if I didn't have this, I would have made a clay center, and then I would have printed up a little clock face off the internet and just glued it to that. And then everything else that I do will be pretty much the same that I'm going to do here. I'm using about 6 toothpicks, and I'm going to trim them down to become the starbursts that go around my button. Basically, I just measured out one, and then I'm going to trim them all to be about the same size. But you could also make it fun where the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock are all the same size and all the interior ones are shorter. Or you could alternate sizes, kind of go with whatever that you want as far as your design. You can look online and there's plenty of different designs to choose from. As far as the color for my clock, I'm going to use this Sunny Day yellow and a pumpkin spice orange. I'm going to combine these because I want to color match one of the colors that's in my wallpaper. And I think that this is going to be pretty close to that color. Let's just double check here. And it is pretty dang close. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and paint all of those toothpicks. So you can see here that I started with the 12, 3, 6, and 9. That's where I'm going to start so that all of them are really nice and even to the numbers. In this case, I want each little toothpick to be at a number indicating 5-minute increments. So I'm starting with that and then just adding all of my other toothpicks to the back. And that's basically my clock. Now, if you wanted to do another look with little spheres at the end, I have these pins, and you can see here that you could do this sort of look also using that. And it's going to go on the side wall. So for now, I'm just going to lay it down here on the floor next to the record holder. All right, so moving on, I wanted to create a couple mid-century planters. I want to do a small one for the coffee table, and then I want to do a floor one that kind of sits off next to the accent table. One of my favorite mid-century planters are these beautiful ones by Gainey. And Gainey was a company that produced a lot of really beautiful mid-century ceramics with these really clean lines. I really like this plant stand, the way that this looks, so I want to build this look. So I'm starting off with my white polymer clay, and I'm just rolling it out as flat as I can. I'm actually rolling it on this piece of paper because I just want to make sure that I keep it as clean as possible. So I rolled it out, and then I've cut out basically a large rectangle, and then I'm rolling it into a pot shape. I'm also going to roll out a smaller rectangle because I want this one to go onto the coffee table. And I'm rolling it using my Christmas cookie roller. I don't recommend that. It actually worked really well, I have to admit, but for the life of me, I cannot find my clay roller. I have no idea what I did with it. For the bottom of both of the pots, again, I just rolled out a little bit of my polymer clay, and then I sat my cylinder down on top. I used that as my stencil to cut out the base. And then once that's on there, I'm just taking my little tool here to kind of smooth out the seams as much as I can to make them as smooth as possible. And then that's what they look like. They're not perfect by any means. And so what I'll do is once they're baked, I am going to take my sandpaper, and it's pretty coarse. This white sandpaper is pretty coarse, and I'm just going to start sanding them down, and then through that I will get rid of quite a bit of the seams. I'll be able to make the top portion a little bit more even. That's what they're going to look like when they're done. One of the things that I did not do well when I cut the polymer clay, I didn't really make the thickness even throughout, so just be aware of that for yourself. I'm still pretty new with the polymer clay, although I am obsessed with it, and I'm still learning every time I do something new like this. That would be definitely a learning curve. In this case, though, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because it's going to be covered. You won't really see it. So for the plant stands, what I've grabbed here are just some wood remnants and trims that I have left over from other projects, and I'm going to do the crisscross base that you see in the planter in the photo. So right now, I'm just measuring out my wood to create create that look. So I want to make sure that it's the right length. And for my little pot, I'm not going to do feet, but for the big part, I am going to do legs and feet. First though, we'll do the crisscross bottom. So I'm just measuring out my pieces. I'm going to cut those down. I'm going to stain them with my walnut stain pen, and then I'm using my Ultimate White Glue to glue them to the base of both of my pots. Once my glue is completely dry, because I don't want those bases to be shifting around on me, then I'm going to add my base, my legs. So I've taken my other wood remnants here and I've measured them out on the side. I use my walnut pen again, and then once that stain is also dry, I will go ahead and glue those to each side. For the tabletop one, I'm only doing the crisscross bottom like I said. I could actually add little feet, but for now I'm not, and the reason is because I don't have any wood that's small enough, although I feel like toothpicks would work actually, but I'm just going to leave it as is. That's our little planter. For the plant itself, I've added just a little bit of my filler. And I don't want that hanging out because I want it to be a very clean look, but I do need a little filler in the bottom. And then I have all of these leftover fake plants in my fake plant stash. And I have this one piece here that was the outside and had a floral in the middle at one point. And that looks a lot like snake plant. And so I'm going to use that to add to the center. And then I'm going to take a little bit of these plastic prongs right here that these all had flowers on them at one time. And I'm going to just cut those down and I'm going to glue those into my little my little pot, and then those are kind of almost going to look like tiny little cactus or something. I don't know what they look like, just a little plant. And there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one to the accent chair, and then I'll add my other little tiny guy to the coffee table. So moving along, I wanted to make a record player for the record stand. And when I kind of researched a couple other record players and record stands, I realized that this little section, which I had assumed was for a record player to sit, that's where I'm going to put my record player that I'm going to make. Now this plastic piece here, this record player, this is a broken off piece to another record player that Town Square Miniature makes. And I had hoped when I visualized it, I knew I had it somewhere, that it would fit perfectly, but it's actually a little too big. And so what I want to do is, although it is 12 scale, it's just, when I say too big, I mean just the length itself is a little off. So I'm going to make one from my polymer clay, from all my new little polymer clays. So basically I'm going to start off with just using a brown chocolate base, and this will mimic what I'm hoping to be like what would look like a wood base, and I don't want to make it very thick. And you can see I'm still using my wood cookie roller here with the Santa Clauses on the end, but that's okay. You make do with what you got. And I did create a little paper stencil, so I know exactly how big I want to make the base. And then for the top part, I'm going to mimic the one that I have to the side that's just slightly larger. And I'm going to create a black top. And this will be where the mechanics of the record player will go. And then just continuing on with my black polymer clay, I'm going to make the actual record holder, right? The round sphere, the flat round circle. It's about the size of a quarter. So I did use a quarter for a stencil. I'll make that, and then it wasn't exactly as round as I had hoped. That's okay because I can sand it down a little bit. And then continuing on with the black polymer clay, I'm going to make a couple switches. I'm going to make the actual record handle that holds the needle, and I made a little round piece as well, just again mimicking that other one that's going to hold the needle hand, and a couple other little pieces too that I thought maybe would look cool. So I'm going to go ahead and bake all of those. And then once they're baked and cooled, I am sanding down the round part so that it is actually round and not jagged on the edges. And then I've glued down all my pieces, and it's kind of hard to see here, but once I add my gold tester's paint to highlight a couple of the areas, you can see here that it actually did turn out to look like a decent record player. I was shocked. One thing that I would like to add is a clear plastic top. And in my vision of what I want to use is just some trash plastic, like a bubble pat, but I need the right size. And so I'm not going to add anything right now because I don't have it, but I'm going to definitely keep it in mind. And as I come across something, I'll add. And if I do ever in the future get that, I will definitely post a photo of it. All right, so my record player is done. I want to fill that record holder with a whole bunch of different albums. Basically, what I did was I just went to the internet, my favorite place, and I found a website, and it listed with the album covers the top 50 most sought after records. So the top sought after 1950s record albums. So through the entire 50s, and I printed up the ones that just really popped in color to make it really fun and nice and bright. And I'm printing those up, and then I'm just going to glue them to some thick cardstock. I'm not making any records for them. I'm just making sure that I'm doubling up on the cardstock so that they're nice and thick. So I just glued them down and then cut them so that I could fold them over so that it would really mimic a album. And then I just glued them all together so they can't be opened or anything. But it gave this really nice thick album cover, and then I'm going to stack them all into my record holder here so it looks nice and full. I didn't print up 50. I printed up probably about 15. And so then I'm going to go ahead and place those in, and then now we've got a nice full record holder and record player. There's that little drawer too on the record holder that maybe someday I can put extra little fun details in or something. All right, what's next? So the next project is super simple. It's the lamp that Carol gave me that she sent to me. My little mini friend sent me some really fun things. And what I thought would be really fun for it, because I'm such a fan of this square and square design. You can see again in my own home. We redid the front of our house to really mimic more of a mid-century vibe. So I have it on my garage, had a breezeway put in. So I have these breeze blocks, these mid-century breeze blocks. I'm a believer that adding a little black to every room really makes things pop. And so I printed it up in black, and I'm just going to cut it down and basically glue it onto this lampshade. And originally I had thought to paint the lampshade, but this is way easier and easy to change too if I want to do that. Of course, this is a non-working lamp, and I just love it so much, so I'm going to put that in this room. And there you go, some fun design there. And the next thing I wanted to do is add a couple pieces of wall art. I really loved this grate that came with this radio, and it bothered me that I hadn't been able to really use it, because initially I thought maybe I'll break it down and it could be the floor, maybe I could, use it some way in the window still, but it was too big. So one of the types of styles that was also very popular mid-century was a art form called brutalist. It was modern, it was kind of beefy, and it felt very masculine. And so I found these metal wall art pieces, and I thought, I really love these. You think I could convert some of this grate into wall art that kind of mimicked this. And I have a couple other odds and end pieces that came with this radio that I thought would also be really perfect, and I could use them in this piece too. So basically, I just made a couple marks here where I wanted to cut out using my Dremel, and then this is basically what it looked like. And I'm gonna take this and then some of the broken up bits, the other pieces that came with the radio, and I'm going to glue all of this together and then paint it gold and make it look like it was like a modern art piece here, brutalist modern art mid-century piece. Now, I wanted to also include some mid-century cats, some 50s style cats, and I have these 3 canvases. And I'm not going to lie, I'm about to give you guys a shortcut because I love to paint. I love painting, and I was going to paint some cats, and I did run out of some time. So here's my shortcut. I just printed up some really cute prints that I found on Pinterest, printed them up, and then Mod Podged them on the canvases so that they kind of looked more like paintings. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to do was the knobs on the front of the radio. I think you might recall that I had left those pieces of paper on the front and that I didn't finish the front. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's what I found. This round piece here, that is the actual original front trim for the knob, and only one came with the radio. And then in my stash, I have this copper. It's very thin and you can cut it with scissors. And so I'm just going to use my original trim as a stencil, and I'm going to cut out 2 more pieces of trim so that they match. Also in my stash, I have these. I don't know what they are. I use these to heighten my Christmas tree in the Christmas Story room box, if you remember. And they kind of look like miniature yo-yos without the string, but I really don't know what these are for. Have a whole bunch of them. Came in a craft lot that I bought. So I'm going to use these. They're actually the perfect size for the knobs. How easy is that? I was like, oh my gosh, these are perfect. So I painted those pink to match the radio. And then, now that I have this leftover trim, I'm going to trim out the mirror on my little coffee table that I made so that now all the original pieces that came with the radio are somehow incorporated into the room box. And I don't have any leftovers, which is good because my stash doesn't need to grow. And now it's time to put the room back together. And here's the final results. And looky there, what do you know? Tiny Whitney is enjoying her new mid-century modern music room. And it looks like she might be grooving out or really enjoying maybe a little Elvis, maybe? I don't know. My guess is she likes a lot of different types of genres in music. So enjoy some of the close-ups of the room. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Of course, I want to hear from you. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so you don't miss any more future content. If you have watched the show for a while and you are wondering, when am I going to get back to the 15-room dollhouse? That is right around the corner. I will be working on the Back to the Future room coming up, and we're going to be doing a whole bunch of really fun projects that I hope that you can use in your own dollhouses, even if you're not building a Back to the Future room. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next time. And don't forget to buy your Tiny Whitney mugs. They are available on my eBay website. Bye!